tungkol sa mga sakit sa balat. Leviticus 13:1 to 59. Sinabi ni Yahweh kina Moises at Aaron, kung ang balat nino man ay mamaga, magnana o kaya'y magkaroon ng parang singaw, at ang mga ito'y maging sakit sa balat na parang ketong, dapat siyang dalhin kay Aaron o sa mga anak niyang pari. Susirin ito ng pari, at kung makita nitong namuti ang balahibo sa balat at sa palagay nito'y tagos hanggang laman, ang taong iyong may sakit sa balat na parang ketong, kung magkagayon ay ipapahayag niya itong marumi. Ngunit kung ang balat lamang ang mamuti at hindi pati balahibo, ihiwalay siya ng 7 araw. Pagkatapos ay susiriin siyang muli sa ika-7 araw, at kung sa tingin ng pari ay hindi lumalala ang sakit sa balat, 7 araw pa siyang ihihiwalay. Pagkaraan ng 7 araw, susuriin niyang muli ang may sakit. Kung nagbalik sa dati ang kulay ng kanyang balat, at ang sakit sa balat ay hindi kumalat sa ibang bahagi ng katawan, ipahahayag siyang malinis dahil isa lamang itong pamamaga. Lalaban niya ang kanyang damit at siya'y magiging malinis na. Ngunit kung mamaga uli ang kanyang balat at kumalat ang sakit sa ibang bahagi ng katawan, muli siyang haharap sa pari. Sisiyasatin siyang muli. At kung ang pamamaga ay kumalat nga, ipahayag ng pari na ang may sakit ay marumi. May sakit sa balat na parang ketong ang taong iyon. Ang sino mang magkaroon ng sakit na ito ay dapat dalhin sa pari para masuri. Sisiyasatin ito, at kung ang namamagang balat ay mamuti at magnaknak at ang balahibo nito ay mamuti rin, hindi ni siya ihiwalay sapagkat tiyak ngang siya'y marumi. Kung kumalat ito sa buong katawan, sisiyasatin siya ng pari, at kung naging maputing lahat ang balat niya, ipahayag siyang malinis. Subalit sa sandaling magbalik ang dating kulay at ang balat ay muling magsugat-sugat, ituturing siyang marumi. Sisiyasatin siya ng pari, at kung gayon nga ang makita nito, ay pahayag nitong marumi ang taong iyon. Ang paglitaw ng mga sugat ay tanda na ang taong iyon ay may sakit sa balat na parang ketong, at siya ay may tuturing na marumi. Kung sakaling gumaling ang sugat at pumuti ang balat, dapat siyang pumunta sa pari upang muling magpasuri. Kung makita ng pari na ang kanyang sugat ay pumuti, ipahayag siyang magaling na. Malinis na siya ayon sa ritual. Kung magkapigsa ang alinmang bahagi ng kanyang katawan at gumaling, ngunit ito'y mamaga uli at mamuti at mamula, dapat humarap sa pari ang taong iyon. Kung makita niyang tagos sa laman ang sugat at ang balahibo nito ay mamuti, at ang taong iyon ay may sakit sa balat na parang ketong, ang pinagmulang nito ay sa pigsa. Ngunit kung hindi naman tagos sa laman at hindi mamuti ang balahibo, ang may sakit ay bubukod ng 7 araw. Kung lumaganap ito sa ibang bahagi ng katawan, ipapahayag siyang marumi sapagkat siya'y may nakakahawang sakit sa balat. Kung hindi naman kumalat sa ibang bahagi ng katawan, ito'y marka lamang ng pigsa at ipahahayag ng pari na malinis ang taong ito. Kung mapaso ang isang parte ng katawan at ang parteng hindi napaso ay namula o namuti, susiriin ito ng pari. Kung pumuti ang balahibo nito at tumagos sa laman ng sugat, ito'y sakit sa balat na parang ketong. Ipahayag na marumi ang taong iyon, at kung makita ng pari na ang balahibo ng nasa napasong parte ng katawan ay hindi namuti at hindi tagos sa laman ang sugat, ihihiwalay niya ang taong iyon ng 7 araw. Pagkatapos ito'y susuriin ng pari, at kung ang sakit ay kumalat sa katawan, ipahayag na marumi ang taong iyon. Siya ay may sakit sa balat na parang ketong. Ngunit kung hindi kumalat o humawa sa ibang panig ng katawan, maputla ang kulay, pamamaga lamang ito ng napaso. Ipahayag siya ng pari bilang malinis sapagkat ito'y paltos lamang. Kung ang isang lalaki o babae ay nagkasugat sa ulo o sa baba, susuriin siya ng pari. Kung nangangati at tagos sa laman ang sugat, ang buhok ay nunipis at naninilaw-nilaw, ipahayag siyang marumi. Siya ay may sakit sa balat na parang ketong. Ngunit kung ang nangangating sugat ay hindi naman umabot sa laman at hindi malinaw, ay ihihiwalay siya sa loob ng 7 araw. Pagkatapos susuriin siya ng pari. Kung hindi ito kumalat at di tagos sa laman o hindi naninilaw ang buhok, mag-aahit ang may sakit maliban sa palibot ng sugat. Ngunit 7 araw pa siyang ihihiwalay. Sa ika-7 araw, susuriin siyang muli ng pari. Kung ang sugat ay hindi kumakalat sa ibang panig ng katawan, ipahayag siya ng pari bilang malinis. Maglalabas siya ng kanyang damit at siya ay magiging malinis. Ngunit pagkatapos niyang makapaglinis at magkaroon muli ng sugat sa ibang panig ng katawan, susuriin siya ng pari. Kung kumalat ang sugat, ang taong iyon ay tuturing na marumi dahil hindi naninilaw ang buhok sa may sugat. Kung sa tingin ng pari ay hindi kumalat ang sugat at tinutubuan na nga ito ng itim na buhok, magaling na ang taong iyon at ituturing ng malinis. Kung ang sinumang babae o lalaki ay magkaroon ng batik na puti sa kanyang balat, susuriin siya ng pari. Kung hindi masyadong maputi ang batik, an-an lamang iyon, siya'y ituturing na malinis. Kung nalalagas ang buhok ng isang tao, hindi siya ituturing na marumi kahit siya'y kalbo. Kung malugas ang buhok sa gawing noo, siya ay kalbo, ngunit ituturing na malinis. Ngunit kung may lumitaw na mamula-mulang sugat sa kalbo niyang ulo at noo, ito'y maaring sakit sa balat na parang ketong. Susuriin siya ng pari. At kung ang sugat na iyon ay tulad ng sakit sa balat na parang ketong na tumubo sa ibang bahagi ng katawan, ipahayag ng pari na siya'y marumi dahil sa sakit sa balat na parang ketong na nasa kanyang ulo. Ang taong may sakit sa balat na parang ketong ay dapat na magsuot ng sirang damit. Huwag mag-ayos ng buhok, tatakpan ang kanyang nguso, at laging sisigaw ng marumi ako, marumi ako. Hanggat siya'y may sugat, ituturing siyang marumi at sa labas ng kampo maninirahang mag-isa. Tuntunin tungkol sa mantsa sa damit o gagamitang katad. Kung mayroong amag ang damit na lana o lino, o ang sinulid na lana o lino na di pa nahabi o anumang yari sa balat, at ang berde o namumula-mula ang amag, ito'y dapat na ipakita sa pari. Susuriin siya at 7 araw na ipapatago ang damit na nagkabatik. Sa ika-7 araw, muli niyang titingnan ito at kung ang amag ay humahawa sa ibang bahagi ng damit, maging ito'y kagamitang yari sa tela o balat, ituturing itong marumi. Susunugin na niya ang mga ito sapagkat ito'y nakakahawa. Subalit kung hindi naman humahawa sa ibang parte ng mansa nito, maging ito'y damit sa kagamitang yari sa balat o sinulid, iniuutos niyang labhan iyon, ngunit ipapatago pa niya ng 7 araw. Pagkatapos, muli itong sisiyasatin ng pari. Kung hindi pa rin nagbabago ang kulay nito, kahit hindi humahawa, ituturing na itong marumi at dapat sunugin kahit ang amag ay nasa loob o nasa labas na bahagi ng kagamitan. Ngunit kung mapunan niyang kumupas ang mantsa, ang bahaging iyo'y gugupitin niya sa damit o kagamitang yari sa tela at balat. At kung may lumitaw pang ibang mantsa, ang damit ay dapat nang sunugin. Ngunit kung malabhan ang damit, kagamitang yari sa balat o sinulid, at maalis ang mantsa, ito'y lalabhang muli at ituturing ng malinis. Ito ang tuntunin tungkol sa mga amag ng anumang kasuotang damit o balat upang malaman kung marumi o malinis ang mga iyon. The regulations about defiling skin diseases. Leviticus 13:1-59. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when anyone has swelling or a rash or a shiny spot on the skin that may be defiling skin disease, they must be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons who is a priest. The priest is to examine the sore on the skin, and if the hair in the sore has turned white and the sore appears to be more than skin deep, it is defiling skin disease. When the priest examines that person, he shall pronounce them ceremonially unclean. If the shiny spot on the skin is white, but does not appear to be more than skin deep, and hair is not turned white, the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them, and if he sees that the sore is unchanged and has not spread in the skin, he is to isolate them for another 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them again, and the sore has faded and has not spread in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a rash. They must wash their clothes, and they will be clean. But if the rash that has spread in the skin, after they have shown themselves to the priest to be pronounced clean, they must appear before the priest again. The priest is to examine that person, and if the rash has spread in the skin, he shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. When anyone has defiling skin disease, they must be brought to the priest. The priest is to examine them, and if there is a white swelling in the skin that has turned their hair white, and if there is raw of flesh in the swelling, it is a chronic skin disease, and the priest shall announce them unclean. He is not to isolate them, because they are already unclean. If the disease break out all over the skin, so far as the priest can see, It covers all the skin of an affected person from head to foot. The priest is to examine them, and if the disease has covered their whole body, he shall pronounce them clean. Since it has all turned white, they are clean. But whenever raw flesh appears on them, they will be unclean. When the priest sees the raw flesh, he shall pronounce them unclean. The raw flesh is unclean. They have a defiling disease. If the raw flesh changes and turns white, they must go to the priest. The priest is to examine them, and if the sores have turned white, the priest shall pronounce the affected person clean. Then they will be clean. When someone has a boil on their skin and it heals, and the place where the boil was, a white swelling or reddish white spot appears, they must present themselves to the priest. The priest is to examine it, and it appears to be more than skin deep, and the hair has turned white. The priest shall pronounce that person unclean. It is a defiling skin disease that has broken out where the boils was. But if the priest examines it, there is no white hair in it, and it's not more than skin deep, and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. It is spreading in the skin. The priest shall pronounce them unclean, and it is defiling disease. But if the spot is unchanged and has not spread, it is only a scar from the boil, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. When someone was a burn on their skin and reddish white or white spot appears in the raw flesh of the burn, the priest is to examine the spot, and if the hair has turned white and it appears to be more than skin deep, it is defiling disease that has broken out in the burn. The priest also shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. But if the priest examines it and there is no white hair in the spot, and if it's not more than skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine that person, and if it's spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean, and it is a defiling skin disease. If, however, the spot is unchanged and has not spread in the skin, but has faded, it is a swelling from the burn, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a scar from the burn. If a man or woman has a sore on their head or chin, the priest is to examine the sore, and it appears to be more than skin deep, and their hair is in yellow and thin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease on the head or chin. But if, when the priest examines the sore, it does not seem to be more than skin deep, and there is no black hair in it, then the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. And the 7th day, the priest is to examine the sore. And if it has spread and there is no yellow hair in it, and it does not appear to be more than skin deep, then the man or woman must have themselves except for the affected area, and priest is to keep them isolated another 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine the sore. If it's not spread in the skin and appears to be more than the skin deep, the priest shall pronounce them clean. They must wash their clothes if they will be clean. But if the sore does spread in the skin after they had pronounced clean, the priest is to examine them. And if he finds that the sore was spread in the skin, he does not need to look for yellow hair. They are unclean. If, however, the sore is unchanged so far as the priest can see, and if the black hair has grown in it, the affected person is healed, they are clean, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. When a man or woman has white spots on the skin, the priest is to examine them, and if the spots are dull white, it is a harmless hot rash that has broken out on the skin. They are clean. A man who has lost his hair and is bald is clean. And if he has lost his hair from the front of the scalp and has a bald forehead, he is clean. But if he has reddish white sore on him, bald head or forehead, it is a defiling disease breaking out on his head or forehead. The priest is to examine him, and if the swollen sore on his head or forehead and reddish or white like a defiling skin disease, the man is diseased and is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him unclean because of the sore on his head. Anyone with such a defiling disease must wear torn clothes. Let their hair be unkempt. Cover the lower part of their face and cry out, unclean, unclean. As long as they have the disease, they remain unclean, and they must live alone, and they must live outside the camp. Regulations about defiling molds. As for any fabric that is spoiled with a defiling mold, any woolen or linen clothing, any woven or knitted material, or linen or wool, any leather, or anything made of leather, if the affected area in the fabric, the leather, the woven or knitted material, or any leather article is greenish or reddish, it is a defiling mold and must be shown to the priest. The priest is to examine the affected area and isolate the article for 7 days. On the 7th day, he is to examine it, and if molds spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or the leather, whether it is used, it is a persistent defiling mold. The article is unclean. He must burn the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or wool or linen, or any leather article that has been spoiled. Because the defiling mold is persistent, the article must be burned. But if, when the priest examines it, the mold has not spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or the leather article, he shall order that and spoiled the article be washed. Then he is to isolate it for another 7 days. After the article has been washed, the priest is to examine it again. And if the mold has not changed its appearance, even though it has not spread, it is unclean. Burn it, no matter which size of the fabric has been spoiled. If, when the priest examines it, the mold has faded after the article has been washed, he is to tear the spoiled part out of the fabric, the leather or woven or knitted material. But if it appears in the fabric and the woven or knitted material, or in the leather article, it is spreading mold, whatever has the mold must be burned. Any fabric, woven or knitted material, or any leather article that has been washed and is rid of the mold must be washed again. Then it will be clean. These are the regulations concerning defiling moles in a woolen or linen clothing, woven or knitted material, or any leather article, for pronouncing them unclean or clean.